Since I first started producing, cinematic and anthemic beats have been some of my favorite to make. A lot of my favorite songs that I produce, as well as a good majority of the money I made off beat sales, has been from these dark, cinematic, anthemic beats that are designed for artists like Kanye, the Kid Laroi, Toliver, Travis Scott, and honestly a lot of other types of artists. What I love about these beats is there's so many different ways to approach them, and people just tend to love them. They're great for working out, they're great for every day, they're great for the club. So that being said, today we're going to break down this sample. And by the way, stick around until the end because I'm also going to be adding some drums to it after I show you exactly how I made it. This sample sounds absolutely crazy and I'm so excited to break it down. So I've got a few main sections in this sample, being the intro, the chorus, the verse, and the bridge or the pre-chorus. So let's start by breaking down each individual section. When you're looking at this sample, there's only really a few key things happening, and all the rest is just added textures and ambience and extra stuff to make it sound bigger. So the main driving force behind this entire thing is this key right here, and this is an analog preset from the Vices Bank by Vision EXE. It's the Soup preset, and it sounds like this. Now, what I really love about this sound is that it's kind of brassy, but kind of still like a plucky synth. So it's really versatile, and it's, like I said, the driving force behind the entire beat. Next, on top of that, I got a soft piano from Labs, and it sounds like this. And this chord progression is actually super basic. It's very commonly used in a lot of like Lil Baby progressions and emotional trap beats. But typically what happens is you'll start from the root note, and then you'll go down, and then you'll go down one more time. And it would be kind of like this. And that sounds fire, but if you want to make it just a little bit more emotional and dark, we're going to start it on the third chord and then do the first one and the second one. Next, let's touch on the most important part of this entire sample, which is the bass. So this is the bass preset I use. It's the Thermo One Shot from Ultraprint by I See You Nowhere. And this is what it sounds like without the effects I put on it. And that sounds crazy. It's super distorted and wide, but I just wanted to add a little bit more distortion, so I used Fruity Fast Distortion, and I cranked up the threshold just a little bit, and I took the pre down slightly. This is what it sounds like with that. So you can hear it's super punchy, it's big, it's hard. Pause. And like I said, those are really the main driving force behind this entire sample, so everything else is just adding on some extra layers, making some variations, and some vocal chops. So this is the first vocal chop that I used. This is Roadblock from the Vocal Loops and Phrases in Moni's Vox and Textures pack. And basically what I did with that is I set it to the right time, and then I pitched it down a little bit to get it in key, and then I pitched it up 2 octaves, and with all of that, it sounds like this. Additionally, I used 2 prod crew vocals from his Beige Sonics kit, and they sound like this. After that, I added this Cursed Woodland texture from I See You Nowhere's Ultraprint kit. Now, textures like this are super important because this is just going to add that slight subtle change, and it's very important to have a lot of those subtle things in your samples because while the listener may not hear them directly and be able to be like, oh, this is happening, they can actually feel it when they're hearing the sample. So it's really important to have those in there. And that's basically it for the intro. So moving on to the chorus, I actually switched up the piano just a little bit, and it sounds like this. All I did was get rid of the extra top line notes and I just turned it into the chords. And this entire progression is actually just 1, 3, 5 triads, except this first note I inverted up an octave. I also put 2 layers of bass notes on here just to make it sound a little bit more full. I also switched up the analog lab preset and I added gross beat on it. I used this 1/2 repeat preset and now it sounds like this. Sounds fire. I also layered the vocals with that as well. So I just consolidated it with the reverb and everything on it. And now it sounds like this. It's kind of like that Clams Casino effect. I really fuck with it. Everything else is pretty much the same, except I also added this perk loop just to give it some more texture and switch it up just a little bit more. And that perk loop can also be found in Ultra Print by I See You Nowhere. Aside from that, I added a couple effects like this swoosh and this reverse gunshot, just to transition between sections a little bit more clean. After the chorus part, I really took everything out except for one of the vocal chops and the piano chords. After that, I added the analog lab back in. Again, it's just the chords as well as the texture. And then finally for the pre-chorus, I did a slight EQ cut and it sounds like this. And the way I did that was just a EQ on the master and I automated this knob right here. So when you put that all together, you get the finished sample, and I like to arrange it the way that I do just so you can easily add drums onto it without having to figure out the whole arrangement for yourself if somebody's just trying to make a quick beat. So before we get into the drums, I just wanted to let you know, I know I used a lot of different kits to make the sample, but luckily for you, we actually put together a bundle on the producer crate that's got all of those kits, more than 1,200 sounds, all in this kind of like experimental R&B style. But yeah, it's super versatile. We've got one-shots, analog lab presets, phrases, vocal runs, all types of stuff in there. So make sure to check out the link in the description if that's something you're interested in. Other than that, let's get straight into the drums. So with the drums, there's a lot of different ways we could approach this because honestly, there's so many different styles of artists that could get on a beat like this. But this is how I would personally approach it. All right, so I'm gonna head into one of my favorite drum kits, Distro 2, and just start messing with some of the sounds and see what we can come up with. I'm kind of feeling a different snare like this. And I don't think I really want to do the typical hi-hats. I want to do more of like a perk loop or some shakers or something that's going to keep the rhythm. That sounds fire. Yeah, I'm really liking the way this sounds already. The main mindset behind this is just using a lot of different rhythms at the same time that kind of work together. Just the rhythms without the snare sounds really fire. And it's a little bit different than the typical two-step hi-hats, so let's keep going with it and see where it takes us. So I'm just gonna mess with some different kicks here. Don't be afraid to be different. There's a lot of beats that sound the same right now, so you never know. If you make one that really sticks out, you could get a placement that's literally an industry game changer. But you're never gonna find out if you only make standard beats, so experiment a little bit, see what you could do. One thing that I've been doing with my perks a lot is only using one like in mostly the same spot and just layering a bunch of different types instead of having like one perk on a lot of different rhythms, if that makes sense. So you see how they're kind of complementing each other's rhythms without each one having to be too complex. It sounds really great so far. Let's see if we can find an 808. I think since the bass is pretty long in the chorus, I'm gonna go with a shorter, stabbier 808. So let's see what we can find. I like this. I feel like we could change this. Yeah, this could be hard. There's already a lot of rhythms going on with this, so I don't think we need to go too crazy with the 808. All right, so let's split up the drums and we can see what they sound like by themselves. Yeah, that sounds fire. All right, so now all I have to do is mix it and arrange it real quick. So I'm gonna do that and then we'll be right back. All right, so I just finished arranging it and that's basically the finished beat. I didn't need to do too much with the mix. It's already pretty good. All you have to worry about is making sure that all the levels are straight. At the very end of this video, I'll go ahead and play the full beat. And like I said earlier, we do have that bundle of all the kits that I used to make this sample. So if you want to go ahead and check that out, it's going to be in the description. There's also a free version, which you could try as well if you just want like a little demo of it. But I highly recommend the full version because it's got over 1,200 sounds and you're literally not going to run out of ideas with it. Other than that, make sure you like and subscribe and feel free to leave a comment on what kind of tutorial you want to see from me next. I'll see you next time, and here's the full beat.